Good evening, everyone. We are inching closer to the PGA Championship, the very first major of the season. Actually, it's the first major, I believe, in over like 380 days since they opened last year, and the first one on American soil since the last PGA Championship. So it's been a
Good
long
evening,
wait.
everyone.
We are
Golf
inching
fans, I
closer
got some
to the
kickback
PGA
here, so
Championship, the very
of
first.
course.
I don't want to hear my own voice here. That's annoying. But yeah, it's been a long time. How excited are you for this first major? This kicks off. I guess the return of golf was awesome. We've had really good fields, but this is the first major, which is leading into, we got more majors coming up here very soon. How excited are you for this week?
Yeah, pumped. I saw some people on Twitter earlier saying that they couldn't get excited for the week because they had
Jeez.
had those um, big fields and big contests on DraftKings, and what a world! I mean, if you can't get pumped for a major, then I don't think you're a true golf fan.
Yeah, and kind of going back to it's going to play out, I think, a lot more like we've seen in terms of the Memorial. This year we are at TPC Harding Park in San Francisco, and it is a par 70, just over 7,200 yards, but they've got it set up so they can stretch it out. I think somewhere around 7,400 with a bunch of different tee box locations and stuff on some of the holes. I believe I'm going to pull up the course information here for a second. So what they've done is they've made the fairways narrower, so they've grown out the rough. So not only is the rough long, there's more of it than guys would have seen. Believe the last time it was used here was in 2015 at the Match Play Championship, the WGC Match Play. So it's going to play different than that. Rory won that. Furyk, I think, was second or third. No, he was third in that when he played in that third place match. It's going to play a lot different than that. So we don't have any course history. So we only got really notes on stuff. And it really sounds like it's going to play like the rough is playing really. They listed at like 3.5 inches, but supposedly it's going to be longer, more gnarly. Narrow fairways, so hitting the fairways is going to be important. But you got a course that's playing a par 70 that's playing, somewhere around, in their head 7,600, 7,500 plus yards. You can't be pulling out three woods and irons off the tee on some of these par fours. We've got seven of them over 450 and five of them over 470 yards this week. What are your thoughts on the course?
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome thing to watch. I think they brought in the fairways a little bit compared to what it usually plays for like the members and things. So, guys, everybody's saying that you need to be playing from the fairways, all the players. Rory, I think Lowry said something. Um, a lot of guys are just saying, yeah, hitting it long is going to help you, but you still need to kind of be in the fairways to be able to attack the greens with how they're going to play. So I'm again looking for an overall type game, similar to what I do in a lot of these majors, especially like the U.S. Open. It's going to take an overall game if you're going to play well and not blow up early or at any point during the week. So strokes gained approach, off the tee, ball striking, all that tee to green is in my model this week. I did throw some as far as specifics for this week, par fours, a lot of long par fours here.
Yeah.
So I threw in the 450 to 500 range to give me some of that. And then the proximity from I threw in 175 to 200 and 200 plus to bring in the long iron play that I think a lot of guys are still, no matter how far they hit it, they're going to be hitting some long irons this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking for distance for sure. I think playing this long with not much roll on the course, it sounds like you're going to need the distance, but you're also going to need that accuracy because if you're missing these fairways, their chances of getting birdie are going to be reduced greatly. Um, Even chances to get hit par is going to be reduced greatly. I had this conversation about Bryson today and how he's going to attack the course, and he's going to go out there and just wallop it as far as he possibly can, and then hopefully use like his 9 iron or his pitching wedge or his sand wedge from whatever outside distance. But it's all going to come down for him to if he can hit fairways above average what he's been hitting. I think he's like outside the top 85 in fairways gained since the return. If that continues, I don't really like him. But if he somehow comes out and puts up above field average in terms of fairways gain some strokes there this week, I think he can definitely use distance to his advantage, and that kind of goes for any guy with distance. If Rory's hitting, JT is another one, DJ, any of these long guys, Brooks, obviously, we'll talk about him quite a bit. If these guys can get that distance dialed in, along with that accuracy together, I think that's going to be a huge advantage. But for the most part, I'm looking for guys that are maybe trending in fairways gained. Same with you. I'm looking at long irons. There's going to be a ton of long shots here because I don't think most of the field isn't going to be going heavy driver, kind of like Bryson. They're not all hitting at 350 to 400 yards. And then around the green, if this is going to be tough, a lot of guys are going to be missing the fairways. A lot of guys are obviously going to be missing the green because of the rough. I think strokes gained around the green is going to be huge. And I always include this a little bit more in my model when it comes to majors because they play tougher. You can give up bogeys. Pars are excellent I think this week. You can give up bogeys, but you're not going to be giving up doubles and triples and going to be on the leaderboard on Sunday. So that scrambling around the green, I think, is going to be key. And then obviously whoever gets a hot putter, I think, can really run away with it of that group that can, get a lot of opportunities. But my guess for the winning score is right around that -8 to -11-ish, somewhere in there. What are you thinking this week?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be hard pressed to get to double digits. So I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be 8-9 under as the winning score. There's a guy that we're going to get to later that I was just listening to you talk, and he's the exact opposite of what you're saying and the exact opposite of what I'm saying. As far as a player type, he just kind of breaks the molds, but we'll get to him later.
Yeah, before we get into players, a couple more things we kind of want to go through. The weather, obviously, is the big one this
Massive.
week. Yeah, it's if you're looking at tee times, which start at, I've listed tee times, the actual tee time and the tee time wave on the PGA showdown sheet, and then just the wave on the PGA sheet. So the first tee times, I believe, go out at 7 a.m. Your final tee time is looking at about 2:42. So I'm going to list the link for the San Francisco, I think it's the Zoo on Windfinder, the one that we're using this week that is really close to the course. Winds are only about 3 to 8 mile an hour up until dinner time, noon, and then 1 p.m. when that second wave goes off, we're looking at about 10 to 12 mile an hour winds. By 2 o'clock, they're up to 15, and by 3 o'clock, they're up to 20, and gusts 30 and 30, 35 to 40, kind of finishing out those rounds. So definitely for me, when we're talking showdown, most importantly, I'm looking at early wave guys, and I'm probably going to have all of them, 6 out of 6 from the early wave, at least 5 in my lineup for. I only run one on showdown. I run it about 80% in cash games, 20% in some single entries, GPPs as well. But I'm going to be at least 5 or 6 from the morning. And then in terms of the full tourney, I don't think it's as important. If I come down to two elite golfers, not even two elite, let's just say two golfers in the same price range, and I really can't decide between them for maybe a final spot or a decision between them, I will most definitely use weather to kind of split that tie. I'm not looking to necessarily go full all in on the tee time wave, because again, I'm only running about 3 lineups on each site for the full tournament. But for cash games, I'm probably going to be looking at least 4 from that early wave.
Yeah, I think it is definitely something to look at. There are some in the afternoon. There's earlier tee times, right around I think 12 to 12:30 is when they start in the afternoon. So it doesn't look completely awful at that point. They might be able to get out there and get at least 9 holes done in moderate wind, not the heaviest that they're going to see, but people that are starting 2:30 to 3 o'clock. Local time right in there. I think that's the very tail end of the tee times.
Yeah.
Guys in there are really going to get bashed. So they're going to really just need to hold it together tomorrow and see if they can get to Friday. And it does look like they'll get just a touch less wind than the afternoon will on Friday. The morning looks like it's going to be a touch better than the afternoon, but nothing like we're seeing tomorrow. So there definitely looks like they're going to get the bad end of the draw this week.
Yeah, 100%. I think that could be something we definitely see come, maybe not so much, Sunday, but come cut day on Friday, even though Friday's not as big of, wind split. I think we're going to see a lot of players from that Thursday morning wave, definitely a higher percentage of them make the cut versus the guys in that afternoon wave who are going to have to deal with not only a super tough course setup for a major, but also going to have to deal with 15 to 20 mile an hour winds with 30 mile an hour gusts, while those early guys a lot of those early guys are going to get their whole complete round in. I would say at least 90% of them before the wind even gets to 10 mile an hour on the day. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage. So we're definitely looking at that. So check that out on the cheat sheet. I got it listed beside each player to the left for their tee time wave, early and late. And then on the showdown sheet, I've got their tee times if you want to go a little bit more specific on their tee times there if you're checking that out. Now into the field, of course, we've got an elite field this week. And as always, as DraftKings does, you don't have anyone over 11.3. I believe Thomas is 11.3. It's the most expensive. So we get a lot of guys that we've seen in the 10K range and up, 9K range and up. Seen some prices down a little bit this week. Me personally, I think looking at some of the early ownerships, that Stars and Scrubs is obviously going to be in play. Guys are going to want to get at least one or two of these elite players in the field. Some of my builds, especially for cash game build, is most definitely going to be a little bit more balanced for me. And then getting into, let's say, GPP, if I was doing a 20 max, and I'm actually debating using an optimizer this week and running a little bit different with some filters and maybe bringing it down and only running guys below, say, 9,500 or below 10K. Let's say 9,500 because the 10K and up range isn't very big. And then eliminating those low guys to kind of get a balanced build. I think balanced build might get you a little bit of separation in GPP if you want to go that route, just because there's so many elite players in this field, and I think a lot of people are going to be going either Thomas or Kochrack at the top.
Yep, it's all about one guy out there for me this week, Brooks. Loved him last week. As far as tee to green, he really looked like he's found something the last couple weeks. And of course, it's a major. He's won this event twice in a row. It's just, I don't know. There's something about Brooks and majors and just the mindset that he brings. And if you listen to him in the press conferences every week of majors, it's just he has some different view on things than some of the other guys. I think the way he approaches it, he looks at, he needs to only beat a few guys or something. I think
he narrows the field down, kind of like we would from a DFS perspective, right? He kind of eliminates guys. It's crazy,
right? It's almost like he just takes as much pressure off of him as he can. And it's even if you look back to 2015, 2014, he's got top 15s in the PGA since 2014, and that was really before he had even burst onto the scene with major wins. So I just love Brooks this week, and that's where I'm going. If I were to pick somebody else, I like John Rahm for 10-5. Kind of found something again on Sunday. It looked like again, almost like he did at the work day right before he came back the following week and won and going away at the Memorial. So he could be fine, but he gets an awful tee draw. I just saw that he gets the worst one. So I think that will lower his ownership. Thomas is going to be popular up there. Xander is going to be popular up there. But Brooks, everything lines up for me.
Yep. I'm definitely not fading you this week. I've got Brooks in my one and done. A little bit because I've wasted so many good players through some of this so far. Just happened that Brooks was still here, and he's friggin' awesome here, and it's a major. Speaking of those majors, I put together, looking at the last 2 years majors, Brooks, since the start of 2018, these are his major finishes. 7 starts, first, T39, absolutely terrible at the Open in 2018.
Awful.
Second, first, second, fourth. He definitely looks at majors a little bit different. The results definitely there. I think him and Thomas, like I said, are the most popular. I think what I'm going to do in my 3 max is have 2 with Brooks, 1 with Thomas, and kind of build that way for my GPP. For cash games, like I said, I'm going to go a little bit more balanced, I think. But that I just haven't completely decided. Things have been absolutely crazy with all these sports going on this week, so I'm a little bit behind in terms of lineup building right now, putting everything together. But there are some guys I'll talk about in the mid-range that I do like. Other guys in that top range, I'm with you on Rahm. I was definitely not all in on Rahm, but as a GPP play, I loved him as a pivot up until I seen the wind and his wind draw. I wouldn't mind going that way for GPP. I think because Thomas and Koepka are going to be so high owned, Schauffele below him there. I think Rahm is going to be super low owned. I think because of that tee time is only going to add to that, and that's going to help. It's going to be a good pivot play there. Other guys kind of in that 9K and up range. I do like Dustin Johnson here. Um, I I put in one of my articles this week a little picture of the office where it says I'm fully prepared to be hurt again. When Michael's talking about that in his office, and I feel that way with DJ going back to him, but he played really good again last week after he disappointed us the week before. I just think he's got that upside, and only 9K. That upside is most definitely like his points per dollar upside. You're probably looking at like 15x plus at that dollar. If he has a good week here, he doesn't even need the win, I don't think, to hit value. So I really like that. Like a top 10, I think, and he's pushing for his value if he gets those birdies down. It's really going to come down to not who has more birdies. I don't think it's going to come down to, more importantly, who makes less doubles, triples, gives strokes away to the field. So that's kind of the way I'm breaking down the top tier. I'll let you start off the second tier here. Kind of let's just go like mid 7 to the high 8K range. Who's the couple guys you're looking at here?
Yeah, so the first one is 8,600 Colin Morita, kind of a hometown kid almost. And he's mentioned, I saw an interview from a week or two ago that he knows the course, the ins and outs. He's played out here 10 or 15 times, not in these conditions, but he knows the course. He's been playing great on top of everything, gets a good tee draw going in the morning. 8,600 is a fair price. Love the tee to green game with him, so I'll be going to Morikawa. Hovland is fine. He does get off late. He kind of showed something, popped off at the U.S. Open last year, showed that he could compete in these types of events. But around the green game does worry me just a touch with Hovland, but he's fine the way he's been playing tee to green. And then I'll let you go, but I am in love with the upper 7K range. It's my favorite group of the week. There's just so many guys that I would be perfectly fine going to.
Yeah. First of all, love Morikawa. I'm with you there. Jason Day is on my list this week. I know you look at his stats in the model and nothing pops off really whatsoever since the return. Just looking at all the stuff, he's 27th in driving distance gained, which is great. I mean, the around the green game is the one thing that stands out. He's 14th in this field in strokes gained around the green since the return, so I really love that here. He always shows up for majors too, it seems like. Looking at this one alone, the PGA Championship, I know it's a different course every year, but he's got top 25s all the way back to 2013. He won it in 2015, second in 2016, and top 10s in 2013 and 2017 as well. So he's had success at the PGA Championship specifically, comes in with 3 straight top 7 finishes or better, and then around the green game. So I just love that price for Day. And then going all the way to the high 7s, you'll probably talk about him too here, is Abraham Answer. Last week, his second round was quite disappointing. I had him in one and done and kind of felt after round 1 he was going to be in contention come Sunday. Really ruined that one round by that 1 second round. He came back on the weekend. He ended up finishing, I believe it was like T11 or T17, somewhere in there, I think. So that one round really set him off. What stands out statistically for him is he's 10th in this field in fairways gained, which I really like, and then 10th in par 4 scoring. So not everything stands out for him, but the form has been awesome since the return, as well as that fairways gained and strokes gained, par 4 scoring. So definitely like that.
Yeah, there's just so many guys I think right here that are viable. Fleetwood, I don't like his tee draw, but I do like the way he kind of came around at the end of last week. He shot, I think, 65 on Sunday. Really like to see that if you look back at his strokes gained by round since through the 6 that he's played since he came back over. He's kind of improved every round, and he gained nearly 2 strokes tee to green, 2.5 on Sunday. So that stuck out to me with Fleetwood. Finau and Woodland are fine GPP plays there at 7,900. Everybody looks too cheap here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny. Finau's always this kind of price in majors. So he's definitely viable. He can make you birdies. He's a bomber. Woodland just knows how to get around at majors, obviously winning the U.S. Open last year. His off the tee game is, I think you can maybe get around it a little bit this week. Hopefully he's not hitting the driver like he has been, just completely out of bounds and crazy. But he's fine at 7,900 too. The guy that kind of going off the end of that, Jordan Spieth is interesting to me this week. 7,700. I know this is not really an event that we think you're gonna just go make birdies in bunches, but he can do that when he gets hot, regardless of the type of course that he's playing. Now he's a guy that can make you a double or triple, but he always seems to then follow it up with a few birdies and whatever it may be. But he's been great in the PGA Championships. I know last year he gained 9 or 10 strokes putting, but his around the green game will keep him in it, I believe. And if it is, I heard some people, I think it was Pat Mayo, say if it is a little bit negated this week as far as it brings everybody closer together, missing fairways, then maybe, just maybe, Spieth is fine. He gets a good tee draw. So I think I'm going to go to Spieth this week. Another guy I like down here, I was all over him last week, priced below 7K, Shane Lowry. 7,500. He's been good in PGA Championships. Won the last major that we had over at the Open Championship. Like the way he played last week. Like I said, I was on him, so I was following a lot of his rounds, and he was hitting it pretty close a lot. He couldn't make any putts, and that was kind of the tale of really since the restart for him. But if he keeps playing like that, I like his game for this type of event.
Yeah, and something that stands out, I like Lowry a lot too. He seems like he's, really good in the wind. He talks about that a lot as well. He always says he feels like he has an advantage when it's windy. He's early, right? So he's not in the wind the first day. He is in the wind on the first day. Oh no, he's out of it. He's early.
He's in the morning.
Right. So even if there isn't wind, that's fine. But if the wind comes up and something changes, we know we're good there with him. That's something that stands out for him here specifically for this course is the long irons. He's 8th in the proximity from 200 plus since the return and 4th in strokes gain around the green. So not only does he have good long irons, but when he is missing with those long irons, he's got the around the green game that's been then picking him up. And then kind of looking at the long-term stats there for that same area really stands out as well. Like the ball striking stands out, the around the green, he's one that stands out on my sheet specifically, and that's looking at like 95% this year, 5% even mixed in with last year. So it's just the putting. I mean, I think his around the green game, kind of like you said with Spieth, is enough to get those guys easily through the cut. At an event like this, the around the green game is going to be huge, and just saving pars is going to feel like birdies to these guys, I think, this week. So that around the green game is something I'm definitely looking at from a making the cut perspective. And then, like you said, Spieth always seems like a guy that can make birdies in bunches. Like he'll put off 2 bogeys in a row, but then he'll come back with 3 birdie streak, or 3 birdies in 4 holes, or 4 and 6 holes and stuff like that. And that's going to be huge. If you can get those streaks and put a couple of those streaks together in every round, that's big. Not so much, it's big for them, but it's also big for fantasy because the birdies, if you've got a guy that gets 5 birdies versus a guy that gets 1 and they end up at the same score at the end of the day, that guy with 5 birdies, you definitely want in there, even if he's got like a double on his card, because those birdies are just worth so much fantasy scoring, and it's going to be a low scoring event. So that's going to be huge. A guy you didn't mention that I do like, he doesn't fit the mold as a distance guy, but he hits it almost everywhere else. Ches Reavie. He's finished top 25 in his last 3 PGA championships, 17, 18, and 19. He's coming in with 3 straight top 25s. Like I said, he doesn't have the distance, but where he really stood out for me in my model was very similar to who we just talked about with Lowry's, the long irons. He's 22nd from 175 to 200, 17th from 200 plus, 9th in strokes gained around the green, 4th in fairways gained, 23rd in strokes gained approach. He's just hitting on, besides the distance, he's hitting absolutely everywhere for me. He's going to be a core play for me in cash games 100%.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard a lot of talk about him this week, and he's definitely popping in my model. He's got the history. He's cheap. He got the tee draw. He does worry me for some just off the wall reason, but it's kind of a trust the numbers thing with him. Other guys I like down there are Stinson. Last week was his first event back. I think, didn't he make like tons of pars or something? I think I played him last week and he made some odd amount of
he was
pars.
hitting fairways.
I can't remember
like
exactly.
The ball striking was definitely on.
That's what we're used to seeing from him. So it's nice to see he was at least shaking a little bit of the rust off and not completely off his game first event back. Eric Van Rooyen, 7,100. He was 8th in the PGA Championship last year. He's a ball striker that can get it done tee to green. He's out early in the morning, 7,100 for him. Neiman, he's playing. Here we go again. But I'm a little bit more off of him this week. He does get the afternoon draw. I think he is one of the earlier ones off in the afternoon, but he does get the afternoon draw. Hasn't been good in the PGA Championships, but again, he's just kind of had one thing go bad for him on a day or two the last few weeks. So theoretically, he could just flip it and have a great week, but that's the guys I'm going at below 7,500.
Brian just asked us in chat, by the way. Thanks for joining us, Brian. New member, fairly new member over at RotoPros, been very active in chat. Really appreciate that. That's one thing that we really want to get across to our members, our new members, someone that's maybe thinking about joining, is that we're not just articles and our cheat sheets. Even we're not just this video. We're in chat. Almost one of us is always in chat. We're in there quite a bit. We're doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. There's a lot of people that, reach out to us for that one-on-one coaching. We have a lot of really good discussions in all of our sports, MLB, PGA, NASCAR. We got everything going on at once. So, I mean, me and you and Kenny and Ryan are there with all these sports going, and we're there to help everyone and answer questions. So there's always one of us there. So really appreciate that Brian's been in there a lot, along with everyone else. Hope you're really enjoying what you got there at RotoPros. Us as personalities, if there's anything you want changed, definitely hit us up. We'll add it to the show. We'll add it to the cheat sheets, whatever. But one guy he asked about, I answered with Reeby and my love for Reeby. Matthew Fitzpatrick at 8,100 hasn't had the greatest track record. He's missed 2 cuts and 4 trips to the PGA Championship, all different courses. Red hot coming in, 3rd and 6th in his last 2 events. What stands out, I put him down as a GPP play because it just seems like the consistency isn't always there for him. Being that he's peaking right now, I really like the upside, especially considering since the return, he is 12th in fairways gained in this field, 29th in proximity from 200 plus, and 17th in par 4 score. And those are the stats that really stand out for me. He's another guy that doesn't hit you with that driving distance. He's 120th or 119th in that driving distance gained area since the return. And this is coming from Fantasy National, the Moosonomics stuff over there. So if you're looking for a little bit more advanced tools, I offer quite a bit on my sheet, but I always throw props out to Fantasy National. They're one of the best out there for sure. But those are the stats that stand out there for Matt Fitz. And one thing I said early in the week with the wind forecast, and it kind of going to play with some, high rough, lots of wind, going to affect it at least for the first day. We'll see how the rest of the weekend goes. I'm looking at the Brits a lot, so he's definitely one that stands out. How about you?
Yeah, he's definitely coming in hot. The one thing that is the hottest in his bag is his putter. He gained 10 strokes putting last week, 8 at the Memorial, and then nearly 5 there at the workday. But hey, he's gained almost 5 strokes putting in 5 of the last 6 events that he's played since the restart. So I don't think it's a fluke. I think he's a good putter.
I agree.
And he's been okay tee to green. So he's definitely fine there at 8,000, 8,100. And I don't think he's going to be super popular either, probably 10% or less for sure.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the putter either. I'm just looking at his putting ranks on my sheet, which I said looks at 95% this season and 5 last. He's 2nd in strokes gained putting overall, 36th in strokes gained putting on bent grass. And that goes back, I believe he's got like a 24 or 26 round sample size in that. So very positive in that. And 3 putt avoidance. These are a little bit bigger than average greens here this week. I don't think 3 putt avoidance is huge, but I mean, if it definitely could be and separates, keep you away from those doubles and triples. And he's 11th in that stat too. So I'm definitely on board with Fitzpatrick with everything put together. especially like you said, there's that mid range is just like the under 8K or let's just say 9K at Dustin Johnson down to that mid 7K is just loaded. You could make probably 100 lineups, different variations just there, and absolutely love every single one. One guy we didn't talk about in that range who's downgraded for me now is Ricky Fowler. I was quite high on him. It looked like he was possibly going to get a little bit lower ownership here this week. He's in that bad draw in the afternoon on Thursday, but for the full event, I think that's fine for GPP. Usually pretty good player in the wind. He's done good in the majors overall at the PGA Championship. He's got some top fives going back as well. It looks like his floor is about a top 30, top 35 at the PGA Championship since 2013 with some, like I said, some top fives in there. But the wind draw kind of has me down a little bit on them. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on, I wasn't able to ask you prior to this, was listening to, I think it was Justin Thomas out on his practice round early in the week, had said there's a lot of right to left dog legs. It's going to definitely produce, you're going to want or at least it's going to favor a right to left ball flight. So that's a draw for a righty or your fade for a lefty. We see this at the Masters. I know the course is going to play completely different than the Masters and the wide fairways and stuff like that. But that right to left ball flight, I think, is going to come into play. Is there anyone that specifically stands out to you in that area? Patrick Reed's one that stands out to me. I hate that he's in the late round, though.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these top guys that bomb it hit a little fade, like Brooks and things like that. But kind of where that would come in more for me is when you get down in this lower range and maybe trying to fit somebody to the course. So
it's a tough thing to find. Like, there's no stats telling you which way a guy hits.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a feel that you've watched them and you know. But like the first guy that pops to mind is Zach Johnson. I don't even know if I'm assuming he's in this field.
There's two Zach Johnsons in this field, so make sure to double check your ZJ.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was not planning on bringing Zach Johnson up, so.
Well, don't play Zach Johnson. Just play Zach Johnson. He's good in the majors. He's good in the wind, so we don't got to worry about the wind. He's got the right to left.
He's in the morning.
You've now got me on Zach Johnson, not Zach.
You have me wondering how he's been playing. I don't think he's been playing that great, but.
No. How old is he? Is he over? Is he like 45 now? He's got to be getting up there.
He's got to be like 40. Hey, he gained 4.8 strokes on approach at the Memorial. But.
Yeah, his stats overall suck all around, like everything I'm looking at since the return. But
yeah, let's just stay away from that this week.
He's going to be 2% owned if you want to go that route. He had a really good approach shot, long irons at the Memorial, so he's got that going for him. But yeah, overall, I'm probably not going to have any of him in my few lineups. But okay, Brendan Todd this week. What do you think about him? I have a few takes, but I'm going to let you go first.
Where is he at, Price?
He is 74.
74. Man, he has been playing good, hasn't he? Yeah. He's kind of that always under the radar guy.
Todd father.
Yeah, the Todd father. he's won twice this year. 7,400. I think I just love everybody else around him too much, and he's in the afternoon, so I'm off of Todd. What, you have a hot take on him?
Not really a hot take. I'm just not on him. He hasn't been great in terms of difficult courses. Like on Fantasy National, I ran down difficult scoring conditions. He's like 120th or 150th in ball strike, 140th in tee to green. The only places he really stood out, which is nice to see, is the short game. He's number one in strokes gained around the green, and obviously he's a really good putter. So he's got that going for him. But without that distance this week, I'm just not seeing it. He hits a ton of fairways, so he's got that. He's good on the par fours, but I just that late tee time in the afternoon in the difficult conditions, add that wind in there. He's just not going to be for me this week.
Yeah, he's too short of a hitter, I think, too. Completely
Glover.
agree there.
He also mentioned Glover and Ryan Palmer kind of down in that range. I don't mind Glover at all. He's got a little bit of distance to him, as well as he's hitting a ton of fairways, which I love. I'm just going to bring up his stuff and kind of see where he sits. Yeah, about 27th in fairways gained, which is nice to see. Nothing else really stands out. So he's hitting fairways. The ball striking is usually pretty good. Top 50 in strokes gained approach, so nothing special. But again, he's 6,700. So I'm definitely on board with him. And then who was the other guy? Ryan Palmer.
Ryan Palmer.
I'll let you talk about Palmer.
He's been hitting it very well last two events. St. Jude's, he 15th place. Memorial, he was second. Last week, he gained 5 strokes on approach, 2 off the tee, and he lost 4.5 putting. So if he can normalize that, 6,900 is a fine price for him. The thing is, for me this week, I love everybody in that mid and even the low 7K range. I'm doing almost all that I can to stay out of the 6K range.
Okay.
And I think you can do that by playing Brooks or JT up there. So personally, for me, I don't think I'm going to play very much in the 6K range. If I was, Palmer is definitely fine the way he's been playing. A couple other guys I will mention while we're down there. Schwab, he's been playing well tee to green. He gets an early tee time, kind of could be like a Eric Van Rooyen play from last year or something, kind of the form that he has. Russell Henley pops in my model this week, and I'm guessing he's popping in everybody's the way he's been playing tee to green, but 6,600 is cheap for him. He does have decent finishes here in the past, so he's fine if you want to jam in some of these top guys. Other than that, I just don't love a whole lot down here.
Yeah, one guy.
It's kind of a big drop off from that 7. Just the talent of guys from that 7K right when you cross into the 6.
Yeah, down here I'm definitely looking at the early tee times a lot more than I am with your elite players, your top of the tier players, I guess. So one that stands out, I talked about Glover, going down even more, Jason Kochrack. He's been excellent at the PGA Championships. I mean, this isn't something I have in my model by any means, but seeing a guy be successful at this major championship before stands out. T33, T19, T23 in his last 3. He's been terrible lately. But despite that, he is 12th in distance since the return, 40th in tee to green, which is fine because he's down in the 6,500 range. Second in that proximity from 200 plus, which I really like. 24th in opportunities gained as well. So he does check a few of the boxes. And I mean, you're talking 66K guys on DraftKings, mid 8K on FanDuel. They're not going to check every box. If they do, they're going to be super chalk. And then I'm probably going to fade them anyway because I don't like really chalky guys down in this range because there's a lot more variance to these players. There's a reason why they're down here. So I'm always looking for a guy that's not going to be super high owned. I'm kind of going away from a few of those guys to be a little bit different, especially in GPP. So the Kochrack's one that stands out to me. But I'm with you where I'm probably not going to be down here a whole bunch, like unless in my 3 max that I talked about, I'm going to go with 2 guys up top, say like a Thomas or Koepka, and then like Schauffele or Morikawa. If I end up going that road, I'm probably going to dip down and grab at least one guy in this mid 6K range. And he's definitely one that stands out. Maybe even Corey Connors at 7,000 right on that bubble. He made the cut at the PGA last year. He's an excellent ball striker, terrible putter. We know the story with Connors. I think that ball striking is enough to get him through the cut at this event. I'm just going to check out how he does on difficult courses. Not bad. Last 50 rounds on difficult scoring condition courses, and this probably, I don't know the exact sample size. I'm not going to click around and waste time here, but he's 32nd in tee to green, 15th in ball striking in his last 50 rounds on difficult scoring conditions. And that's looking at, like, I believe average scoring. I forget how Moose splits that up in terms of easy, average, and difficult, but I'm thinking we're looking at like average scoring around par or over par kind of thing, and that's where we're going to be out this week. So seeing that ball striking for him, being that he's in the early wave as well, Connors definitely stands out to me there as well. Anyone else that we maybe glossed over that you're looking at in any range?
What about Tom Lewis down there? He was second
Lewis
last week. Yeah, I mean, he was second last
old.
week. Could have won. I mean, he had his fair share of chances there down the stretch to really throw himself into the mix. He gained 5 on approach last week. He was 32nd at the 3M, 12th at the Rocket Mortgage, did all that through his putter, but he's really improved every week since we returned. So
The ball striking,
7,100. I think he's a
and
fine option.
not only the ball striking, but since the return, looking at it, he's got distance too. He's 40th in distance gain since the return, so that's nice to see from a cheap guy. And he's 28th and 33rd from the proximity ranges I'm looking at, 175 to 200 and 200 plus. So I don't think I'd ever consider him like in a cash game, because his around the green game, his opportunities, his fairways gain, all that stuff is pretty terrible. But being that he's got distance and long irons, if he can get on with those long irons, I don't see any reason why he can't. And I don't mean he's going to win, but at 7,100, if he can hit a lot of greens and make some birdies here, I think his upside is like a top 25, even a top 30 is enough if he makes enough birdies to pay off. So
yeah, he was actually 11th in the last major that we had.
Oh,
at the Open.
Oh, I haven't even
know he's from over there, and he's played in 2 Open championships, and he's made the cut in both the last 2 years, 47th and 11th. Now he hasn't made a cut in any of the majors over here, but he's playing pretty well, and at least he does have some experience last year. With a top 15 finish there in a major. So,
okay, seeing as we're looking at guys that have done well in majors recently who are also from overseas, let's talk about Danny Willett. That I just went and looked at my major championships, like the last 2 years, because you brought up Tom Lewis at the Open, and I'm looking just above at Danny Willett. He was 6th at the Open last year, 12th at the U.S. Open. Where are we here? T41 at the PGA. Not so good at the Masters, 66th. I believe that was a miscut because the cut's a little bit lower there. T24 at the Open in 2018 as well. So not too bad of a track record. It kind of fits the same old as Tom Lewis. He's only $100 more. We know a lot more about Willett. So I'm definitely on board on both of them myself.
Yeah, a lot of interesting options.
Yeah. Stars and Scrubs this is why Stars and Scrubs I think is most definitely in play, because the more guys we talk about down here, the more that just keeps standing out that you could grab 2 or 3 of these guys, and if they make the cut and finish. By the way, the cut this week is top 70 in ties. It's not top 65 in ties like it has been the full year. That is something the PGA Championship is doing themselves. So next week it'll be back to T65 or top 65 in ties. So just keep that in mind. So a few more players are going to make the cut than we have seen. Willett is also in that early wave as well. Another one I did like, who's in the late wave, so I'm a little bit less now. And the reason I'm going to Willett is Matt Wallace. He's been good at the PGA Championship as well. He's seen some upside here lately, but I'm more into Willett and Lewis than I am. Who was I just saying there? I'm just clicking through too many. Matt Wallace this week. So that's where I'm at. Hey, Jason, thanks for joining. Bezuidenhout. What Casey's asking about Bezuidenhout. I've kind of really liked his ball striking pretty much since the return. He's always a little bit underowned because, not a lot of people know him. He's got a funny name. So, that definitely stands out. I haven't even thought about him yet this week.
He's right in that price range. He's in the afternoon, but he's been very consistent. I know we talked about that a few weeks ago, and he's continued it since then. So since the return, he's had 2 missed cuts, but other than that, he was 28th, 22nd, 20th last week. I think he's fine. He's another guy that all these guys that we're mentioning are guys to kind of sprinkle in a 20 max build down here and just mix and match. And kind of the way that I'm seeing it is you can go Stars and Scrubs and you don't even have to dip into that 6K range if you don't want to or maybe just take some shots on a guy or 2 down there. But I don't even think it's necessary this week, really. And the last thing, my last thought on, and then I'll let you get to it, but my last thought on this is kind of going along on the 20 max builds. I would go, if I was doing one, I would go heavier on, not heavy, but I would definitely get some exposure on some of these guys that are in the late wave in hopes that it just their ownership is much lower. So some of the guys that I'm thinking about fit that mold. John Rahm up top. Bryson could. I'm on Rahm more than Bryson. Let's see. There was Fleetwood is another guy. If any of these guys, if it's just lowering their ownership just because everybody's scared of the afternoon, if they can grind out tomorrow and shoot even one over something, just stay in the mix,
Yep.
and then they're on level playing field from then on out. So it's all about getting through that first round, and I don't see anybody just going out here in the morning and shooting like 6-7 under or anything like that. So if they can just stay in touch tomorrow afternoon, really grind it out, that'll give them some confidence to go through the rest of the week, and get you some ownership leverage. But again, it's not something that I'm just going to go out there and a lot of the guys will blow up, I think, in the afternoon. But if they're going to be much less owned, I would take some shots on these guys.
Going back to Bezuidenhout there, one alarm that kind of goes off for me when looking at his stats is not only does he's not on the distance side, he's 113th in distance gain since the return. That's alarming right there. If a guy doesn't have driving distance this week, I want to make damn sure that he can gain strokes, hitting the fairway. He's 91st in fairways gained, and then 92nd in opportunities gained. So there's just his long irons aren't there either. 105th in that proximity range. There's too many strikes against him for me to put him in my few lineups. Even in a 20 build, I don't think he'd make my 20 build. Kind of sticking with the guys that I've got so far. Kind of in 20 build, I'm really like 15, 16 golfers max, and I try and build cores of 3 or 4 players, and then just like you said, sprinkle in those cheap guys so you're not overexposed to those 75, 100 and below guys. We're talking on DraftKings here, 9K and below on FanDuel, so you're not overexposed to one guy that, obviously the variance is higher on these lower end guys. One guy blows up, he's going to ruin all your lineups if you've got like 50% exposure, even 40% to some of these low end guys. I like to keep it 20 max. Usually if I've got 4 different cores, I will use I'll kind of split it up and take two value guys and put them in with each one of those cores, if that makes sense, just to kind of keep that, like you said, that exposure down. But other than that, that pretty much covers all the guys. I'm looking at Jimmy Walker. Last guy Brian asked about is Jimmy Walker this week. I haven't even honestly looked at Jimmy Walker yet this week. He's got the driving distance, obviously. Usually seems to have some upside with his approach shots. Doesn't really stand out in any other area, but 6,400 just seems really cheap.
Yeah, he won a PGA Championship.
2016. Top 25 last year as well.
In these events.
Late wave, though.
I don't think I get there, but he's a guy that's like a millie maker type guy that you're sprinkling in some guys in there. But he's not played very good since the return. He's missed all but one cut. And he's been god awful off the tee. So definitely no for me. But.
And one more thing. Who's your one and done? I think you saved Brooks. Did you say?
Brooks, yeah.
Okay, so we are going double Brooks this week. Brooks Koepka is going to win this thing. Get your bets in. Get your DFS lineup set. Brooks
get your Brinks. Brinks polos.
We're going to be driving the Brooks Brinks truck. Golf shirts for everyone next week once we win.
I'm buying one all the money. Just so everybody knows. So.
You're going to have to buy them from Dane. If you want one of these shirts, once Brooks wins, you're going to have to buy it from Dane. He will provide the link to his own website.
Yeah, last thing with bets, I bet 3 guys this week outright. Brooks was one of them. I never bet people that short of odds, but I went pretty heavy on Brooks. So bring the Brooks truck. And then the only other 2 guys I sprinkled some on was Fleetwood, 45 to 1, and Spieth, 55 to 1. With the top 10 on both of or top 5 on both of those.
I like it. I haven't even looked at bets.
We don't get each ways down here, Chris.
You don't get each ways? Oh,
no.
Man. Love the each ways. Definitely.
Especially in majors. We need them. Maybe next year.
And usually for the majors, they expand those each ways to, I think it's still quarter odds or fifth odds, but they expand it to like top 8. So you don't quite get that top 10, but you're still top 8, which is nice, especially on guys when you're getting like 40 to 1 odds. That's a nice secondary bet, because nothing's worse than having like 2 or 3 40 to 1, 30 to 1 guys, and they're all kind of battling on the leaderboard come Sunday, and you're thinking you're looking really good, and then some moron comes out of nowhere and shoots like a 63, steals everything from you while your guys finish second, third, and fourth, when you could have been up quite a bit of money. This has never happened to me before, by the way. Yeah, it has.
If it did.
Yeah, it has, and it hurts. It really does hurt. I usually only do it like if I'm buying in on a guy that's like 10 to 1 or 14 to 1 in an event, which I don't do at majors, by the way. I'll do that at like an event where there's only like 2 elite players in the field. Say where Brooks is like 11 to 1 in a really weak field or something like that. I won't do each ways on that sort of bet. I'll kind of bet one on him, and then I'll go some top 20s to kind of make up my money that way with some other guys. But when, like I said, when you start getting in the 30, 40, 50 to 1 and down, I definitely love those each way bets. So thanks everyone for joining us this week. Really appreciate it. If you got any questions, we're going to be in RotoPros chat, in the Slack chat, for the next couple hours here, building our core lineups. We're going to post those in chat as well. I believe tee times tomorrow morning, lock for DraftKings is 10 a.m. Eastern. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm showing 8 a.m. my time, which would be 10 Eastern. So we got some time to build some lineups in the morning. No rush there a little bit. Nice and late for you. That'll work out nice to get some late golf.
Too long of a wait.
Yeah, no doubt. You gotta sit there and wait till they tee off. But and if you're not a RotoPros member, you can get over to rotopros.com. Click on the sign up button, top right hand corner, and you're going to get a 3-day trial with a weekly membership, a 7-day trial with a monthly or yearly membership. And if you use promo code RP50, you will get 50% off your first payment after the trial is over. Thanks for joining us. Leave your comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. And